Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be in the vastness of the multiverse. I'm Rocken Larry Locken with Pleiadian Productions, and we're back again with Pleiadian Talk, and we've got a returning guest today, Nicole Santoro. The last time Nicole was here, we talked about cannabis and the GMO effect on the cannabis strain in the world. And today Nicole's just going to talk several points about GMOs, labeling, subsidizing, and just the whole ball of wax when it comes to GMOs. So Nicole, welcome back. And how's the weather in New York? I know you're on the East Coast. I'm out here on the West. And
It's
how's
actually a
it going
beautiful
today out
day.
there?
Yeah, it's a beautiful day, and thanks for having me back. I'm thrilled to be back.
You're welcome. I guess I should have said back there. We're out here. You're back there. Okay, well, we're everywhere together in the multiverse. So I had a great time last time hearing you talk about cannabis and GMOs, a subject that doesn't get touched on much, but I thought I'd have you back so you can share a little bit of your expertise about GMOs in general and how they work with food and the governmental laws. So why don't we go ahead and go right into it? And what would you like to start? What would you like to share with the people first?
Well, first I want to talk about what GMOs actually are, because
Okay.
I think that's a good place to start. GMOs are plants and animals that have been genetically engineered with DNA from bacteria, viruses, and other plants and animals. Basically, this has nothing to do with regular hybridizing and crossbreeding of plants. This cannot occur in nature, and it's not safe. They basically the only studies that they've approved it because of are conducted by the same corporations that created them in the first place. So there's a big bias going on here, and they offer none of the benefits that they claim to. Monsanto claims to be a sustainable agriculture company, and they're anything but. They're destroying the food supply. And actually, because if you think about it, because the DNA of these plants and animals that we consume are modified, that in turn modifies our DNA, because when you eat, it is an information transfer, and that will affect your DNA. And so this is not only an issue agriculturally, but it's a huge health issue.
Wow. And then you ask yourself, why are they doing this? I mean, I understand the money, but there's some real psychopaths out there running this thing. And
Well, I think all of these same people are those who are working in the pharmaceutical industry. And if you look at the health consequences of GMOs, which include allergies, food allergies, tumors, cancer, obesity, diabetes, all these things are caused by GMOs. Not solely, but definitely a huge factor.
yeah, they're not helping the process any at all, I would say. And this is just, do you think that the awareness is picking up on this? I mean, you
I
hear it
do,
out
I
there.
do. I just recently read an article that was saying that from the organic sales from 2002 totaled about $500,000, and then in 2012 was $3 million.
Wow. So how much did you say it was in the first figure?
Well, this is thousands, by the thousands, so it's scaled down, but it's the equivalent of going from $500,000 in 2002 to $3 million in 2012.
Good Lord. So that right there is actually very encouraging to hear. And,
It really is, because the people don't realize their power, supply and demand. And so if you demand the organic food, then that's what's going to be there, because that's where the money is.
no, I agree with you 100%. And like we talked about in the pre-show, don't you think they throw all kinds of roadblocks at us, making it harder to buy organic, not only driving up the prices, but it seems like if you don't have a farmer's market anywhere near you, they make it real hard to buy organic and eat healthy, and they don't even have the food together at a certain place. I mean, they really do make it so inconvenient to eat healthy or eat organic at a lot of
Yeah, they
places.
really do, because they want to encourage people to buy the GMO products because they're making money off of it, obviously. And they will basically, the government subsidizes, with our taxpayer money, keep in mind, the
Yeah.
production of GMOs. Corn, wheat, and soy are the dominant products that Monsanto produces. And they rope these farmers in with all these contracts, and they drive out small farmers, and they drive the farmers into debt because they make them rebuy the seeds every year, which is total insanity. I mean, you keep your seeds and you plant them again the next year. You don't just keep buying seeds every year if you're a real large scale farmer. But that's what Monsanto has done, because they splice the DNA, and they think they've created life, which actually they've destroyed it, but they have a patent on it, so they can actually, even if it's just a contamination issue, like a neighboring farm gets contaminated with the GMOs, the Monsanto will actually then sue those farmers for royalties.
Oh my goodness. That brings me on to another point. Have you ever heard from any of your contacts anything about the government paying some of these big farms to destroy half their crop? Like if they've got a huge abundance, instead of putting that food out there where it can be eaten. Have you ever heard of that before, the government paying them more money than they would have made by selling it to destroy half of their food? I mean, if you haven't, would it surprise you
Wow,
to find out?
I've never heard that, but it doesn't surprise me. And also, if you think about it, we throw out 9 billion pounds of food in this country every year because there's no money to pay for it when people are
No.
starving, and it doesn't make any sense.
No, there's people starving to death right here in our own country now. That compiled with the fact that, nothing says gluttonous like America and overindulgence, but at the same time now we're facing these problems and starving too. So yeah, it definitely is an issue. Not to get off topic, but how long about how long Monsanto has been around as a company?
They have been around a long time. They were responsible for Agent Orange. They were responsible for DDT. They were responsible for pretty much every horrible chemical you've ever heard of.
So it sounds like the Vietnam War was a big lucrative deal for them.
Oh,
As far as,
absolutely.
yeah, with Agent
War
Orange
only
and
happens when there's going to be a profit from it.
definitely, and it sounds like if you're talking about Agent Orange and all that stuff, it sounds like they really got their bang for their buck with Vietnam. That's too bad. So, okay, yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah.
One point I wanted to make about
So,
the subsidies is that, well, because of this rising demand for organic produce, I think it just makes sense to end the GMO corn and wheat and soy subsidies and subsidize organic food, and then we would have cheap organic food and expensive GMOs, because in reality, if the GMOs didn't have the subsidies, they would be massively expensive. I mean, if you think about it, the lab time to create it, to make the pesticides and the chemicals, and to spray it, and to hire all the employees to do it. I mean, if you ever seen a Monsanto farm and the suits they have to dress up in to spray the food, I mean, I saw a funny little cartoon about that. Well, do you wear that when you eat it?
yeah, I'm picturing somebody going into a biohazard waste dump, or like a futuristic
Exactly.
or war movie where you've got to wear all this crap over you like you're in space to deal with
And
it.
now there's this whole thing about labeling, which I think was kind of a plant in the first place, but Monsanto lobbied against it in Washington, Proposition 522 in California. They spent millions to make sure it didn't pass. But I think I say screw it. Don't wait for labeling laws. Don't depend on legislation to make your decisions. Buy organic. Know what ingredients are GMO. You can find out anything that has corn, wheat, or soy, be suspicious of, and it most likely is GMO. Don't eat anything with more than 5 ingredients. Know what the ingredients are. Don't just, consume chemicals that are in these ingredients. Things like natural flavor, high fructose corn syrup, soy lecithin. All these things are genetically modified. The labeling laws, what it would do is basically how they do it in Europe is they say may contain genetically modified ingredients, but they won't tell you which ones. So either way, you need to find out for yourself, what you're consuming and whether or not it's GMO. Don't wait for the government to tell you.
So they probably even had that law passed. They probably even had a contingency plan to label it in a vague way to where they were still covering their ass. You know what I mean? These people
Yeah,
just don't
exactly.
get it.
And they will never ever say on any kind of mainstream news source that GMOs are dangerous. They will never ever say it, even though it's been proven. I mean, a rat fed a GMO corn diet develops giant tumors, obesity, and doesn't live very long. And the third generation of rats fed GMO corn diet are sterile. So we are literally dealing with our ability to reproduce as a race.
We're killing ourselves. What, I really don't remember what the big argument was. What was the company's argument for not labeling these? What was their phony?
I think they were saying that like prices would go up because they're going to have to change the labels, which is total BS in my opinion. But yeah, I think that was one of the arguments at least.
Yeah, they got to label it in the factory. They've got to label it in the factory anyway. So I don't buy that argument, but I suppose a lot of people that aren't awakened would buy that on a subconscious level. Okay, well, yeah, it would cost.
Yeah,
them
because
more
they don't
money.
want to think that anything scary is happening, so they'll accept the lie, the comforting lie.
The comfort of denial, huh? Boy, that comfort of being in denial, it's sickening, but at the same time, it's fear-based. And
It absolutely is, yeah. And one other point I wanted to make was about the not only is it the in the processed food and the packaged food, and obviously the conventional produce, which I don't understand why they call it conventional. Well, I do understand, but they shouldn't call it conventional because conventionally grown means organic, really, not pesticides, which is what it means. Conventional just means it's been sprayed with a whole host of pesticides, including fluoride, which calcifies your pineal gland and poisons you.
Very true.
But also, it's being fed to the livestock, the animals that we eat. But if you think about it, then so if when we consume these GMOs, it modifies our DNA, then you're basically eating a GMO animal. Not to mention that it's been tortured and had a horrible life and then a traumatic death, but also been fed a GMO diet, which means that you're consuming what they've consumed.
Raised in cramped conditions. I mean, it just never ends with the psychoticness of the people behind this. The things they do to the animals. Yeah, it's just disgusting.
The best thing you can do for yourself, your own health, and the environment is to go vegetarian. I promise you, you will feel better. You will lose weight. You will be healthier. You will have less of an impact on society, and you'll save about 100 animals a year.
You will, and you'll feel lighter. And I think, too, not to get too much off topic, but people are going to have to start going to eating like that anyway because as their bodies ascend and Earth is going through this vibrational...
That's right. In order to raise your vibration, meat has a very heavy density. It's a very dense food, so in order to raise your vibration, you have to let that go. And speaking of letting things go, it's good to release our attachment to food. It doesn't always have to be about tasting good, but it's about consuming pure food so that you can be pure and not pollute your body.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, and I think a lot of people are starting to go that way because not just a shift in consciousness, but they're also our bodies are craving lighter foods, smoothies, salads, fresh fruits. We're actually, I've went that route, but it's because my body's wanting it. It's not like I'm trying to pat myself on the back, oh, I quit eating meat and it was hard to do. No, my body just decided about a year and a half ago it wanted to do that. And I've never really resonated with meat too much anyway. But yeah, I can't, no judgment, but I can't handle eating it. And really,
I can't either. And it's not to say you can't be spiritual and still eat meat, but it is the next step in spirituality and in raising your vibration and becoming lighter, like you were saying.
Exactly. It's not a judgment thing. You're right. It's just the process we're going through right now, and people get hung up on arguing with each other about it. And it's not about an argument. This is just a fact. This is what's happening to us, and it's going from there. And in the meantime, they're poisoning most of our access to those kinds of foods. And if it wasn't so sickening.
I mean, in America, we only grow corn, wheat, and soy, really. I mean, unless besides the some of the other things, but those are our main crops, and they're all genetically modified. So this is what our food is. This is what we have. You're saying it's hard to find organic food because not that many people are really growing it. I mean, the demand is going up, and I think people are, maybe starting to grow gardens or starting to form little conscious eco communities. But on the whole, yeah, it's very hard to find, because it's not being grown. I mean, you go into just a regular supermarket, and 80% of these foods didn't even exist 50 or so years ago.
It's true. No, it's true, and everything's so frozen. It brings up something I had heard not too long ago, and I don't know if somebody was just trying to be doom and gloom, but you mentioned the corn supply. They were trying to tell me that there's no more organic corn, period, left in the United States.
That's not true. There is organic corn, but about 95% of it is genetically modified. So that's huge. That's a huge percentage, yeah.
It's really running on a hairstring as far as its existence then. I mean, we're talking
it really is. And that's why it's so important that we keep our we grow an heirloom garden, and we keep our seeds, and we protect the integrity of our food supply, because otherwise it will be destroyed, and it is very close to on its way to being destroyed. I mean, even organic food is still contaminated. Unfortunately, it's true, because they're chemtrailing. There's pollution in the air. If there's a farm on the side of a highway, it's car exhaust in the air, and nothing is truly pure, but we do the best we can, and obviously to buy organic and to eat organic is much, much better than to just say, oh, I'll just buy conventional. But still, it's a really big problem, and we've gone really far with it.
We've really pushed it to the brink, and you hear stories growing up and everything about animals that become extinct and this and that, but we don't really put it that way with plants. But some of these foods are about to become extinct.
Right. Well, and the bee crisis is a huge part of it, killing off all the bees, and we need the bees. We absolutely have to have the bees, otherwise we will not have most of our food.
Oh, that'll be a requiem for a nightmare
I would encourage everybody to plant flowers and nectaring flowers and herbs and stuff like that for the bees, because they're precious to us, and we can't lose them.
If everybody just planted a couple of those plants, you're not saying they have to have this big, huge flower bed, but if everybody did their part and just planted a couple of those,
yeah, if you are able, if you have a yard, if you have the space, if you know somewhere where you could plant a little flower bed, it makes a huge difference. And I would encourage everybody to grow herbs in the window. Even if you have a small backyard, you can still grow peas up the side of the house or up the fence, or anything. Just any amount of your own food that you can grow is going to have more life force. It's going to be because it's going to be fresh. Even the organic foods, like when you get them in the supermarket and it's traveled from Mexico, well, it lost a lot of its prana on the way here.
Exactly, and like with my kids, we grew a garden a couple years ago, had some strawberries and whatnot, and some of their friends came over. Some of these kids have never tried organic vegetables or fruits, and it tastes so foreign to them. It's like, wow, this is so full of flavor. All the flavor's been sucked out of these foods too in the supermarket, hasn't it?
Well, it's this artificial flavor, and it lights up the pleasure centers in your brain, so you think it's good, but it's actually very bland and tasteless.
Yeah, it really is. It really is like eating nothing. like any food is almost anymore. And but when you have something organic like that, it's like, wow. I mean, you really can
It's a
tell a
whole different
difference.
world, yeah.
It's a whole different world, and our food's so polluted now that, boy, you can really tell a difference. I mean, you know, you don't even have to talk yourself into telling the difference. It's just a whole nother, all these nice flavors and full of life, and then it doesn't matter whether you eat an apple or a hamburger at the store anymore. They about taste the damn same because it's all, you know, I mean, that's a poor example, but everything tastes so the same in the stores. All these
Yeah,
foods that are tainted by GMOs and not fresh, and
I know.
yeah,
It's really terrible. It's really terrible. So
you just,
we really need to buy organic, support local farmers, support local organic stores, like little health food stores. They are always happy for your business. It's better to go there than to a big corporate store, because
yeah.
they really care about quality, which is what I've noticed, and they really make an effort to buy the non-GMO project verified. You can always look for that seal. I think they're doing great work, in letting people know if there are or are not GMOs in the food. If it's got that label, then there are not, and so that's a really good step.
And I agree. And I think if you can find a farmer's market in your area, I think that most of them are really still very loyal people that care, and they care about the community. And, you
A
know, I've
lot,
heard
a
nothing
lot
but
of
good.
times, organic farmers are some of the most aware people you'll meet because they
I've heard that.
they they know all about this whole industry, and then that, once you can understand the conspiracy about the food, then that can lead you to a larger understanding of what's really going on here.
Yeah, and it might help some people to get educated like that. I mean, you hear the catchphrases and the buzzwords on the news, or just in passing, but when you start really talking to some of these people, that might set the spark in your mind to look into it a little further and hit a little bit closer to home. Because I think we get so caught up in America, especially, we don't want to hear about it, or we hear it on the news. And I mean, how many people do you think know the letters GMO but couldn't tell you if their life depended on it what the hell it meant or had to do with? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And there's a lot of false information about that. Like I was saying, on the mainstream news, they will not come out and say that GMOs are unsafe or that they have any indication of being unsafe. Meanwhile, they're killing people and they're destroying our food supply. And they're
Yeah, they
destroying
won't.
the small farmers of America.
They are, and on the news, they will even go so far as to make it sound like they won't come out and say it, but they'll really innuendo the fact that you're a quack if you think, you know, these people, why do they want it labeled? Why, you know, what's their problem? I mean, they really, you know what I mean? You can just see the undertones
Yep,
in the
definitely, of
news.
course. Of course, because you know what? People like us scare them because we know, and they're afraid for people to listen to us because they know what would happen once it does happen.
Exactly, and then you got some newscaster spilling it out where either he's part of the problem or he's too stupid and being manipulated by the problem. And it's just, you know, I mean, you can see these people coming a mile away, and then what scares me is to sit and think that some people still watching it might be sitting there buying it hook, line, and sinker. But I
Oh, they
think
are.
people are,
They are. But
they
at least there are more of us that know and are spreading the information so that maybe if somebody hears this from me and then one of their other friends tells them they'll start to look into it, because if there's multiple people totally unrelated who are all saying the same thing, how are you going to ignore that?
you can't ignore it. And even some of those people, like have you ever had a situation with your a friend or a family member that might not be awakened, and you try to tell them something and they didn't listen, and then maybe they come back to you in a month or a year later and, oh, did you know this, did you know that so and so said this? And it's like, yeah, well, I tried to tell you that a year ago. You know what I mean? But they'll
Yeah.
listen to, I
But the way
swear,
I
like our,
you telling them that kind of set them on that path
that's a
to
good.
acquiring the knowledge, and then the universe brought them more people who would help them along.
I'm glad you told me that. That really helps because I know a lot of us, we get so frustrated because it could be the biggest loser in the world could tell your most loved family member something and they'd buy it, whereas you try to tell them that and they wouldn't listen to you for if your life depended on it. But I think that you're right that we had planted that seed originally. That's a good positive point.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, okay, so now we know about our toxic food supply. So what can we do to stay healthy and well and balanced in these toxic times? And I just wanted to mention a few things about just household products. You want to make sure your dish soap is non-toxic. You want to make sure your shampoo and your soap and your laundry detergent, all these things are skin irritants. They're endocrine disruptors. They are neurotoxins. So be careful about that. Replace all your household products if you can. I would suggest everybody do some form of detox on a regular basis. Like, for example, one easy thing you can do is to get wheatgrass powder, and all you do is mix it with water, and that's a great detox of heavy metals and all kinds of other toxins. Eat superfoods, chia, goji berries, avocados, all these kinds of foods. Eat an alkaline diet because cancer thrives in an acidic environment, and the chemtrails they're spraying on us is making everything acidic, including the soil and our bodies and the water and everything else. And sweating is a great form of detox. So whether you go into a sauna, you get some exercise and work up a sweat, that's a great form of detox. Using a neti pot, which is a nasal rinse, that can help out to clear your nasal passages. Which
Great, yeah. I had a
which
nose surgery. Those work really great for that, for nasal
yeah, they
discharge.
are very, very good, and you just do a little pinch of mineral salt in there, and then it cleans everything out. And then I would suggest everybody bless their water and food, and have a true appreciation for their food. There are many people in this country and all over the world that don't have, they don't know where their next meal is coming from. They're dealing with food insecurity. So be appreciative of your meal and thank Mother Earth for her abundance, and just send love into it, and you'll be surprised at how you fill it with the life force, and you'll be surprised at how much energy that will give you. And
No, it's
also,
true.
yeah, because
Yeah.
our food you have to acknowledge the consciousness and of our food, and it will respond to positive intentions.
Yeah, this is true. I can speak from personal experience. It really does. And you mentioned the people starving in our country. People don't realize this, but it's gotten to the point where about a quarter of youth under 18 right now, a quarter of American youth are only eating a full meal and a half to 2 meals a day, and we're talking when school's in and they're getting a meal there. I mean, it's really that dire right now. And
It
of
is
course, the school
terrible. It
cafeteria.
is terrible. I mean, all these people are on food stamps, and they cut the food stamps in half, so now people are only able to get half as much food. And then, of course, this issue of the GMO food being more affordable than the organic food, which we should really just switch it around and just subsidize the organic farms and start mass producing organic food. But
And we'd have all this free food for everybody, but as it turns out now, the school cafeterias now aren't even in the control of the schools. They're contracted out, just like the military has gotten rid of cooking food for their own troops. That's contracted out to somebody, God knows who, getting rich, people scratching somebody's back. You see, you start seeing these parallels, the money trail, one right after the other, and it's just, if it
yeah,
weren't so corrupt
we
and
just
evil.
really need to develop a closer relationship with our own food. We need to know where it's coming from, what it's been through, where it's gone, and how it's been treated, how it's been grown, what was the soil like, is it full of nutrients? We only have a half inch of topsoil left across our whole planet. We've just totally destroyed with our industrial farming. We've totally destroyed the topsoil, which is the most important part because that is an ecosystem in itself, and that is what gives our food the nutrition. So a lot of this food is totally devoid of nutrition because the soil it's grown in is dead.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very sober and humbling thing to hear. And it's void of any nutrients. And have you ever noticed when you eat something like whether, I know you don't eat a lot of fast food, I don't anymore either, but if you were to eat something like that, it may fill you up, but then you're hungry again a little bit later because there's no nutrients in that food. So
Yeah.
you're getting all these calories and you're
It's just
not getting
empty
satisfied.
calories, right? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just empty
and it's
calories. Yeah.
plus it's tasteless now. So it's really a shitty situation all the way around.
It
But
is,
people need
we, like I said, we need to develop a closer relationship with our food. We need to grow our own. We need to grow food for the communities. I mean, this planet is abundant. You know, you can plant food anywhere, and it grows. You know, you put a seed in the ground, it pops up. It's amazing. It's a beautiful process, and we need
it
to become
more
more familiar with it.
exactly. And you know, with going to more of an organic and a vegetable and fruit diet, it really doesn't take a person that much space to once they get going to produce their own food. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right. That's right.
and so in no time at all, I mean, that could be how the abundance comes about. I mean, it really wouldn't take much after it got maintained and everything. And I mean, people don't realize we're our own worst enemies, and you know, the door to paradise is just around the corner, but we can't seem to walk around that step, and it's
Not yet, anyway. I think we're getting there, but it's just gonna
I do.
take a lot of hard work and dedication. But we'll get there.
Yeah, we will. How many? I don't know if this is really your expertise, but if things were to say change tomorrow and the laws changed and it was more pro organic and friendly, how many crops, how many seasons do you think it would take to get us back on track to where we were feeding, where we could mass feed the country? I mean, with this we
When you
obviously
replenish the soil and you grow organically and you make sure that your soil is a live and thriving ecosystem, you can replenish the soil in one season.
so if we got our shit together, we're talking within a year there could be
And
a big ass.
especially if we started growing hemp, I mean that is something
Yeah.
that adds nutrition to the soil when it's grown. So that is something that can definitely, if we just planted hemp everywhere where there was industrial farming and raping and pillaging of the land, then we could definitely bring that back to a healthy, thriving ecosystem.
No, that's a great point you made. And I think you just answered a question for me because I always knew that with the hemp, you know, the clothes, sure, the paper, all that stuff. But I'd also read years ago when I was in high school in a magazine we had then called High Times, that it could also cure world hunger. And is that how it would probably go about curing world hunger, is by replenishing the soil and, you know,
No,
doing things
actually,
like that?
the hemp seed has all the nutrients that you would need to survive on. So you could literally live on hemp seeds alone.
So if you got in a bad situation, you could literally, okay, so it would be enough to keep a person surviving
Yeah.
if they
Yeah.
had an endless supply.
Yep.
Okay. Probably protein, probably all kinds of good things in there,
Yeah,
actually. I
omega-3s,
mean,
proteins, fats, really good fats, which you need. Good fats are really essential to your diet and your brain health.
yeah, I worry about that too because one of my sons is an athlete, and I worry about because he doesn't like to eat a lot of meat. He doesn't eat meat at all. The kids really don't at all, but I worry about him, so I'm like forcing peanut butter down him to give him protein. And you know,
Yeah,
what would you say? What would you?
yeah, definitely incorporate beans and legumes like chickpeas, lentils, mung beans. Any kind of bean that you like is great. Like I said, the hemp seeds are great. They are available and you can buy them at health food stores or sometimes just regular stores have them too in like the health food section. And yeah, any kind of nuts and seeds, pumpkin seeds, walnuts, pecans, any kind of nut. And I think that, well, peanut butter is acidic, so it's not the best nut butter. Not that it's bad, but it's not the best nut butter. I would go with like an almond butter or like a sunflower seed butter or something like that. And those are all great sources of protein. Plus, there's protein in vegetables. People don't really know that, but vegetable protein is real.
So if you
And
all this stuff, you're getting your protein. So we've been fed this nonsense too that, oh, you better eat your meat for your protein. This other stuff sounds like it's better. If you have a combination of it, you're getting even more protein than you would eating the fatty meat that's the flesh that you're eating. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
I
better
mean,
alternatives.
I'm starting to think that we're not really even meant to eat meat.
I agree
And
with you.
that
And
was
yeah,
something that the reptilians, the extraterrestrials who invaded our planet, that's something that they kind of pushed on us. And I mean, if you think
genetically
about it,
manipulated.
with all the, I mean, they feed on that kind of fear energy and the torture and the rape and all that, and that's what they do to the animals too. So
Do, and that genetic manipulation, and it gets me going on another subject, and I'm not trying to tell everybody to go get all their teeth pulled, but in a light angelic body, you don't have teeth. And look at the way our teeth hurt our mouth and the way they're like knives in our gums. That's part of that fear, I feel like that's part of that genetic manipulation in us too, to make us like animalistic like that. And I agree with you. I think we are more omnivorish, and especially I don't think it can even be denied that as we're going through this ascension, that's definitely what we're becoming. But I think we were this way anyway until that genetic manipulation, and then it all ties into this evil, and I mean it's just
yeah, and and
endless.
one point I want to make about the teeth is if you look at a true carnivore like a cat or a dog, they have very sharp fangs. Not like
Right.
not like us one bit.
Not at all. No.
And
And
so
they serve their purpose.
that is a strong indication to me that we're not necessarily. I mean, you can't really eat a steak without a knife, can you?
No.
So that's a strong indication to me that maybe you shouldn't be eating it.
Yeah, I've always been grossed out by meat anyway. Of course, I grew up eating
Me too. Ever since I was a really young child, I never liked it. I was always very picky about it and never really
Yeah,
liked it. I wanted to become a vegetarian when I was about 7 years old.
yeah,
My
my
parents
problem
wouldn't
got to
let
be
me,
though
but
with
then once I turned
yeah,
16, I was like, you know what, I can make decisions for myself, and I stopped eating meat.
yeah, I got into a little bit of a weight problem as a kid because I didn't like meat right, but I'd get into not the other vegetables, but I became a French fry addict, which yeah, and and I'm sure you've been in the situation too before, like with meat. Did you ever have family members like, "Oh, come on, Nicole, you got to eat your meat," or lay this guilt trip on you? Like, not that they were trying to, but
Well,
they
that's
were,
all they want to talk about. That's all they want to talk about when you're not eating meat is, oh, why aren't you eating meat, and blah 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 blah, and it makes me sick. Like, and they're like, oh, does it bother you that I'm eating that? And I'm like, well, what do you want me to say?
yeah, after you're badgering me to eat it, and they almost make you feel like you're one of the dregs of society because you don't want to eat meat.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
that's
the
just a
Inuit.
projection.
It is. No, it is. And that's something we need to get. But a lot of us have grown up in that kind of environment. It's like, oh man, it's not right. And then when you don't know, you start to question yourself and like, okay, am I weird? I'm glad that we're all awake and have this connection because, you've got a whole family of meat eaters around you. Oh, why aren't you, and then, it gets that ignorant mentality of kind of just being an animal. And I don't know. I'm not judging. I'm just saying the whole
No,
thing is really messed
definitely.
up.
I really think that the meat makes people aggressive because, like I said, they are ingesting that fear and the torture and the traumatic death. The trauma, well, that will release adrenaline into the animal's body right before you die. So you're eating that, and so yeah, it makes people kind of hyped up and aggressive.
It does, and you can't even use the argument anymore. I could have seen a couple hundred years ago, you're starving in the Old West. You had to do what you had to do, maybe in some certain cases, and eat some meat. But it's not like that anymore. I mean, that's just
Sure, exactly. If you need it for survival, then by all means, but you don't need it for survival in this society.
no.
I
You
mean,
might.
I mean, and people will make the argument, oh, well, animals kill other animals for food, but we can grow food. That's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very short-sighted thing to say that, oh, well, other animals, look at how they do. Well, yeah, look at how we're doing it too. We were genetically manipulated to have all their bad characteristics. We didn't get any of the good animal characteristics of family and cohesion like you see within animal kingdoms, but we got all that fear and like we're always needing to be on guard. And yeah, it was really a yeah, kudos to those reptilians as far as evil goes. They really did their homework in putting together a real fucked up plan for the planet.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, they really did, and it just, you know, consumption and consumption and consumption, and America is kind of based on that, and we're really paying the price now for it. We're really starting to see a couple
Yeah,
generations
we
of
really
people
are,
that
and
have never.
yeah, it's all about to go off a cliff, and so people just have to decide: are we going to go off the cliff, or are we going to turn this around?
Yeah, we're at that crossroads. We're really in uncharted water right now. We're kind of in that where every day we need to make that decision. Are we going to go left or are we going to go right? And, you know, the ball's kind of in our court right now and the window's closing. And,
Yeah, that's
you know, I
absolutely
mean,
true. Well, a way I'd like to put it is the window's open. It will
it
close
is
eventually,
open.
but right now it is open, and it's time to take action.
I agree. And the more people that can hear about this, the more people that could just get a thought out of this. They may disagree with everything we've said, but if they agree with one point, that's going to plant the seed, you know? And I
Definitely,
think
and
that's the.
even just hearing it, it goes into your subconscious, and it'll stew around in there.
Yeah, you'll be having that aha moment years later, and you'll be like, "Oh, they were right," and exactly, and that's kind of how consciousness goes. And like we were talking about on the last show, it doesn't mean you go out into the streets. You don't have to go out into the streets and if you fool yourself and lose your job and protest. If you just talk about it,
Yeah,
all you
make
got to do is.
people aware, work on yourself, start organizing, form little conscious communities, talk in groups, and we can figure this thing out. We can figure out what we're going to do about this.
The old adage, lead by example. Don't badger in heart, but if you lead by example and educate, it goes a long way.
We
It
just
really
have to show
does.
people this new way of living, this new way that is possible.
It is, and it's actually a more comfortable way too. It's a more simpler way. I
It's
mean,
more
it's really a
natural. It's
win-win.
aligned with nature. The part can only stay separate from the whole for so long.
No, I agree with you 100%. And people would be surprised of how good they would feel. Just, you know, they may have some withdrawals from their not getting their meat, but you'd be surprised how good they would feel in just a couple months or
Yeah, I mean,
even a week.
just imagine us all living in, a community of people who get along, and we all help each other. We all grow the food. We all share the food. We some people are good at some things, and other people are good at other things, and we all bring our talents to the table. And it's not like we would have to live in like a Stone Age society. No, we have this technology, and we can utilize it in a positive way. It's not like we have to get rid of all our modern comforts. It's just it will be different.
It'll be different, and more modern comforts will come of it because these inventions will start coming through consciousness.
Oh, absolutely.
And
And there is already so much, but it's just all being suppressed. I mean, we already had the idea for a water car. There's Tesla technology, the Tesla coil. It's free energy. It's simple, but we just need to make that leap into this this new way of life.
we do, and you know, it's easy to get caught up and bitch about the past. I mean, yeah, the Tesla coil. Plus, in the '60s, the government had a vehicle. They've had vehicles that could go 70 to 100 miles to a gallon on water, and you know, and then people will be like, well, if they had that, they would really they. Why wouldn't they just have that on the market? Well, gee, I don't know, because the gravy train would dry up for these controllers, and they'd
Exactly.
have to give up. And it's not even about
I
money
know.
to them
What would
anymore.
we do if we didn't have to pay for food, if we didn't have to pay rent, if we didn't have to pay for electricity?
We
We might
should.
actually be able to be an advanced society where we can actually, create and share together.
A galactic society where we create and share. We're responsive instead of reactive. Everybody will know everybody's business, but it won't matter because there's no judgment. There's that
Right.
kind of conscious
Yeah.
on. There's no judgment. Everybody does their own thing, but it's all for the collective, and it's all for the right reasons. It's not for somebody to get rich and hoodwink somebody. Or these
That's right,
resources are all.
because there will be no hiding once the psychic link up is completed, because we'll all be telepathic, we'll all be psychic.
Yes,
Um,
and there'll be no
and
reason to lie anyway, because there'll be no judgment either. That's the beauty of it. It's not like, okay, well, shit, I'm going to be exposed, or no. Yes, but no, but there will be no judgment, and the vibrations won't handle for lies or for negative behavior. It just won't. It just won't exist in that kind of a higher vibration. You know what I mean? And then we
yeah,
can get more into
probably.
yeah, of developing, like if we were in that situation, okay, and we hadn't invented the automobile, well, we'd probably go right to inventing something like a hovercraft, like I talked about before, instead of something that sucks all the minerals out of the earth,
Yep, that's
you
right.
know, and
Definitely.
which would have been even okay for 5 years or something, but then the technology stays around for hundreds of years till the controllers can bilk every last little thing they can out of it and find a way to control the next advancement so it can't be used by anybody or invented. I mean, it's ridiculous. We're 100 years behind on technology.
Yeah,
It's
probably even
sickening.
more than that. But
No,
but yeah, I mean, once it opens up for true progress, we'll be amazed at how far we can go in such a short
yeah,
time because there already are all these, there's all these star children who are extremely amazing and are here to bring us these new technologies and this new way of thinking and this new paradigm.
it's very true. The Pleiadians were telling me one time, and it's a good thing you mentioned that, because if we were on that consciousness level in less than 10 years, we could fix 150 years worth of problems that the industrial revolution has brought. You know what I mean? It could
Yeah,
literally be over.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
I mean, like it would take less than 1% of the time to fix than it took to be in the mess that we're in right now.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
right.
the more people that awaken, the better off we are. And I just hope
Yeah.
people really pay heed to this. And I'm glad that you're talking about this, and more people are. And you hear the word out there, but it's good to get out there and talk about it. And do a lot of your friends talk about this too, like in your inner circle? Do you have a lot of people that this is important to too, or are you kind of alone on an island?
Um, it kind of goes both ways. I mean, I do interact with quite a lot of people. I don't have a lot of people who I consider to be very close friends. It's just a really small circle, and even then, I don't see them that often. But yeah, I mean, I'm always making people aware. Every single person I meet, I'll let them ask the questions. I won't just, start blabbing at them. But, if they
Yeah.
ask, I will definitely talk about it. And I'm not afraid. I'm not embarrassed about what I feel. I want people to know and understand what I know and understand.
No, it's the truth, and I really appreciate you being that way too. And I'm glad that you don't feel apprehensive or feel that you have to, because one of the problems I made at the beginning of my awakening was I felt like I had to badger people, and well, why aren't you seeing what I'm seeing, and don't you feel this way? And then I realized I was just interfering with their growth. Have you always just been patient like that, or did you ever go through a phase where you just wanted to
Oh
start
no,
getting
no,
on
of
people?
course. Like when I first had my awakening experience, I wanted to tell everybody, and yeah, I got a little, I definitely got frustrated with people and with the world, and I went through a lot of period of self-doubt and doubt in general about this whole thing and whether or not it was actually going to work out. And but now I see, every day is like one big synchronicity for me, and I just see the divine plan unfolding, and it's beautiful to see.
Yeah, examples all over, just everything. I mean, the
Yeah, everything is a
synchronicity.
microcosm.
Yeah, it's really so cool to see, and you can even keep trying, even if you want to make sure you can try to deny it to yourself. But as soon as you do that, all the another synchronicity hits and another synchronicity hit, and it's everything.
Yeah,
It's just
really is.
it, on a day-to-day basis what we're going through, and it's really good to see. And I'm starting to see some star seeds where family members are starting to even come to them, and finally ask them questions, whereas they wouldn't give them the time of day about it beforehand.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty clear that all of our institutions are failing us. So I think people, are, because we have such this great light worker community, or whatever you want to call it. That they're, and we have been out there, pushing this stuff for years and years and years. Finally, once it comes to this point where we're really in a crisis, and people can, not that we haven't been in a crisis, we have been in for a long time, but now it's really urgent, and people are sort of starting to see, the path that we're going down, and then they maybe heard about one thing from somebody so many years ago, and now maybe they get back in touch with that person because whatever's happening in their life now makes that relevant.
No, I agree. It's a really, really good point. And I got into an argument about a year ago with somebody when I was trying to explain to them that all these resources are here in abundance, and they didn't buy it, and they're like, well, somebody's going to pay for it. Oh, that water going out there, somebody's going to pay for it. The power, somebody's going to pay for it. Like, like, yeah, well, why? I mean,
yeah, one thing that I love from Alex Collier, and I love Alex Collier in general, but he said that the Andromedans told him, why, I don't get it. Why do you have to pay to live on a planet you were born on?
The synchronicity right there. You just mentioned Alex Collier. I hadn't thought about him in a long time, was really into him in the 90s, and somebody sent me an email today asking me if I'd ever heard of him and showed me an article on him, and I said, yeah, and I've got others I can show you, and I was explaining to her about him, and she was like, wow, really? And I'm like, yeah, he's really, that poor guy's had his family threatened, about had a stroke.
Yeah, he's in really bad shape. If anybody listening can help him out, go to his website and please donate to him, because he really needs help. He's like homeless and living in his car, and it's really sad. I love that man, and I just want to see him. Nobody like him who's been spreading this information should be in that kind of a position. But it's sad.
It really is sad, and I can imagine the threats he's been under and the things that they've done to him. And even when he first came out in the early 90s, you could tell he was really nervous to tell this stuff, and you could tell the passion in him. And
oh yeah, definitely. And I really commend him for his work.
Yeah, I could tell right away that he was telling his truth, and at the very worst, 80 to 90% of what he was saying was the gospel truth. And boy, it sure panned out to be. After all these years, he called it right on the nod. And yeah, I think that's really odd that he was brought up today. I hadn't thought about him in a while because his health, and I didn't know he was homeless, really.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, it's sad. Huh. But I just thought that was a great quote by the Andromedans. Why do you have to pay to live on a planet you were born on? Because if you think about it, this is our country. We were born here. Like, we have a right to this land. And if we could just, if we didn't have to pay for land and rent and buying property and all this crap, which is really just a moot point, because this is our land. We inherited it from our birth. It's our birthright to be here, and so if we didn't have to pay for any of that, we could live freely. We could, form these communities without having to worry about, oh, you're putting in this much money for this property and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be like that,
And there's enough space out there. I mean, I had it figured out one time to where even somebody that didn't ever want to work in their life, or just was alone, didn't want to do nothing to contribute, all the technology's there for them to at least have a regular-sized suburban house, all the food, the water, the medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. There's enough for everybody. That's what we need to understand. There's no need for us to all compete. We can all share in the abundance of this planet. And
yeah. Exactly. And in a situation like that, somebody who normally wouldn't want to contribute.
There is no overpopulation. The planet can sustain about 12 billion people. If you've ever driven across America, you will see there is tons of empty space. Tons of empty space.
Endless. Yeah, it's funny. The Pleiadians were joking one time in a channeling that they couldn't figure out why we don't take more advantage of that, and why we congregate in these big cities that are full of pollution and everything like that. And one argument could be made industry, but you know, exactly. We could all live in communities of maybe 20,000 people instead of being stuck in a community with millions if we have to, with all that pollution. And the land is there. And they talk about overpopulation. I wonder if sometimes that's kind of a ruse too, because check it out. Families only have nowadays, you know, you only have 2.5 kids, 1.5 kid versus the families that had 8, 9 kids years
Well, even
ago. And
in this country, yeah, yeah, and it's an aging. America is an aging population for sure. Most of the average age of this country is like 55.
exactly, and I hadn't thought about that. And an admin in the group Pleiadians with me, Jason Wilson, brought that point up yesterday. That okay, well, it can't be as overpopulating as they're trying to tell us, because in the Europe, even in just in the Western countries, we're not
No, it's really
producing.
not. The only thing is, it's just to get people to accept the depopulation agenda, because I'll hear a lot of the asleep people say that, oh well, it's good, you gotta like kill, there's too many people here, you gotta like kill some of them off. It's like, no, that's a
Oh
terrible
yeah,
attitude. You want and help your fellow man flourish, not kill them off. That's a terrible attitude,
no,
and that's just total brainwashing.
it is, and they even used it on the hippie movement, because my mom was involved in it in the '60s with the zero population type, some kind of a bullshit thing that she was in for a while, and they even got the flower children. I mean, they even infiltrated that and got them into some of these mentalities through other ways, through selling it to them through a different way versus how they would sell it to somebody else to do this. So it's really like a very devious, again, I mean, no surprise. I mean, pick your poison with them.
Yeah, I know, definitely.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And so I'm glad that that nonsense has stopped. And, and the thing is some places overpopulation may be happening, just like with global warming.
Well, the
Okay,
cities
well,
are absolutely, don't get me wrong, the cities are absolutely overcrowded, but we do not have an
right.
overpopulation, a population that is too high for this planet.
Right, and hence the difference, huh? And people really need to start looking beyond the issue and look at the undertones of the issue. And well, why is it doing that? What is it doing that? I mean, it doesn't matter what's on the surface. Look at all the intricacies that go along with it. Just like with the weed we were talking about the other day about, well, why does the government want to make it legal all of a sudden? And here, me caught in the illusion, I was thinking for a while, okay, well, maybe the son of a bitches are finally willing to concede that one drug, but no, not so fast. They're gonna poison it
No,
too, and
they want to create this totally immoral society where like all drugs are legal, and pedophilia is legal, and prostitution, all this kind of stuff. They just want to create this like total like degenerate, immoral society.
they really do, through the wrong way. Now, I mean that, yeah, I'm not for that at all. Now, some countries, like I said, there are a couple countries that have decriminalized drugs, but it's done in a different kind of a way with lots of education and love and support for people that have issues. And like I said, I wish I could remember the name of them, but after 2 years, they have 10% of the problem with their youth with hard drugs that they did before.
Yeah,
And you
well,
got
I
to
mean, it's
think
the
that with the
government that's bringing it all over here. I mean, part of the reason we're in Iraq is for the poppy, the opium.
exactly, yeah, Afghanistan too. Hey, you know what? If you've got some drugs we can have from you, some oil, some artifacts, hey, you got whatever, we'll be over there to help you out, and we can even set up a fake dictator if you don't have one to get rid of. We can even prop one up for you and create one. And don't worry, because we'll run both sides of the war for you. We'll run the rebels and the current government, and I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. They lend both countries the money for the war, and then they get paid to rebuild the infrastructure.
Oh yeah, and then it goes on from there, and then some guy's buddy gets the food contract for the military, the medical supplies, the weapons. I mean, those things are all contracted out now, and it just goes on and on and on, and then they try to sell it. Well, we're over there all these years because, well, we got this big military. Why haven't we wiped them out? Well, because they know their land better than us, and it's hard to get them and pin them down in there. Okay, well, after a while, you get to know the land too, and when you got that many massive troops, so it just doesn't wash, and none of their arguments have ever washed with me.
Yeah,
The
my friend
Vietnam.
says that The pioneers of a warless world will be the youth who refuse military service.
Oh, big time. Because you're not fighting for your country, you're fighting for a corporation.
That's right. That's right.
And
There's
somebody
nothing
asked me one
heroic
time,
about that.
nothing at all. And I know somebody was like on my case one time asking me, well, you mean if somebody come over here and invade our country, you just sit there and wouldn't help? I said, if they invaded my community, yes, I would. We do everything you could to fight it off, but I'm not going to go to some hut or a swamp halfway across the world to
It's
fight
kind of
nothing for a
irrelevant because
corporation.
all it is I mean, do you really think this like poor little country actually got it together enough to like attack us? No. No, absolutely not. And there really is no threat. It's really just an imagined threat. And all it is just, well, first of all, if we didn't even have these weapons in the first place, then we wouldn't be able, we wouldn't have to worry about it. And
Exactly.
yeah. And also
But you
it's just
take
it's all just
level, yeah.
political theater.
It is too, and if you even go and want to operate out of 3D in the mentality and look at it, well, then you're right. I mean, they don't have. I mean, at worst, what are they going to do? They could slingshot a boulder over at us. I mean, that'd be about the biggest threat. I mean, really though, and it
I
shouldn't
know,
even
and
be to that point.
we sell them the weapons to begin with, so it's totally a moot point.
Yeah, it is a moot point. And that's why it pisses me off with North Korea because even if everything was really on the up and up, so you're telling me that we're going to let a country that's got one bomb, possibly, and even if it did, scare us. Okay, so it hit us, they'd be wiped out. You think they're that stupid and don't want to be? I mean, so their argument
They
fails to
really want to
me at every
start
other.
World War III because that's how they're going to get their new world order, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't either. And their arguments are so stupid. You can see through all of them. None of it makes logic, but they sell it on every level. It's like they have a plan A through Z.
Yeah,
And I've always been able to.
maybe 10 years ago people would have bought it, but at this point we're so war weary and people are
Yeah.
actually, starting to see, well, people are just getting squeezed in their daily life at every turn, and so people are starting to see that these government leaders are not, they don't have our best interests at heart.
No, they don't, and they're pawns too. The real movers and shakers are 3, 4 levels up from a Putin or an Obama, and so it's
Oh
really.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Of
Yeah,
course.
they're pawns. Yeah, they're so it's either that they're shitheads too, or they're just stupid pawns. But really, the problem is above that. I mean, there's no, and when you think about it, Nicole, logically, why the hell wouldn't it be that way? If some evil people were running this and wanted to keep control of it, do you really think that they would let all these countries really be against each other and have a nuclear war? Yeah, well, for maybe depopulation, but it's all controlled by a certain group of
I don't think
families, and
nuclear war will ever happen.
I don't either. The Pleiadians have told me no, that it definitely will never happen on this planet. Now, what I don't know is sure, okay, us or the Russians, we may test something in the Arctic, or I hope not, but I mean, nothing's going to ever be launched against another country. But these countries all report to the same people at the top of the ladder.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And
No,
they're all in the same secret
they're
societies.
They are, and then they'll even throw out names like the Rothschilds and Rockefellers or whatever. Okay, sure, evil families, but then people get hung up on that name and go, oh, those Rothschilds. But really, that's just kind of a platform, that name. I mean, even above that, that you would never know people are running it.
Well, they're all part of
You,
it.
you
Yeah, they're
know,
all, but they're taking orders.
yes.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And they would love for people to think, oh, those evil people, but then to get hung up on just the name the Rothschilds, the Rothschilds, the Rothschilds, oh, those Roth, when really it's so much even more fucked up than that.
Yeah, it really is.
That
It
they,
really is. Definitely. But,
yeah,
that kind of is daunting to people because they think, oh well, there's this huge control system. How are we ever going to dismantle it? But we do have
mhm.
the power to do that, and we have the power of numbers. There's billions of us, and there's only maybe thousands of them. So
Yeah, the proof is right there. We have the ability, but they'll make it look like such a daunting task. You're right, and they don't look at the intricacies. It's either like, oh God, it's all gonna just blow up on us. It's like trying to learn a computer. It looks so complicated, but once you start getting into the intricacies of how to run it, hey, this isn't too hard, and you got
right,
to take it
exactly.
level
And
by level.
so once we can come to the understanding of how we're being controlled, then then can we dismantle the control system.
Exactly, and it starts getting easier and easier, and everything
I
falls
think
into place. But
that's a good note to end on.
I think so too. I really am glad you came back. I was looking forward to this, and I just hope that people take the time to listen, and even if they just see the title and raises the consciousness, but that's good. Nicole, listen, thank you so much for being on, and I hope to have you on again. And
Sure. Thank
I
you so
hope you
much,
have a good.
Larry. It's always great to talk with you.
Always a pleasure to talk with you too. And before I let you go here, so I'm taking it it's almost 3 o'clock out there on the East Coast, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
11:50 here out on the West. Okay, girl. All right, take it easy. Peace out. And I'm going to put this together, and I'll send you a copy of it.
Okay, cool. Cool. Awesome.
All right. Cool.
All right.
Awesome. Later.